With that, we'll start our webinar.
Okay, again, welcome everyone, and thank you for attending our 2015 CWEA Local Section Annual Treasurer Orientation Webinar. I'm Gail Tupper, State Board Member and the incoming CWEA Treasurer. The other pictures you see are Barlinda Blackburn, our current CWEA Treasurer. Also participating in this orientation are our excellent CWEA CFO, Kevin Rogers, and our terrific finance manager, Renu Paul. Okay, folks, let's start out with a question. It may seem like a no-brainer, but using the polling option on your control panel, who do you think has fiduciary responsibility for CWEA? You can click on your choice on the screen, and while we're waiting for Chris to tally your responses, is it you as the section treasurer? Is it each section board officer? Is it the entire section board? Is it the paid staff of CWEA? Or is it the CWEA board? Chris, do we have any polling responses?
Yeah, it looks like we got about 2/3 of everybody voted, and I'll give them just a couple more seconds. Look like everybody's chiming in, so we're almost there. Okay, I think just about everybody's voted.
And we're showing, you can see the results there. Well, the answer is, no, bacon is not the answer for this question. Actually, the answer is that the CWEA State Board has ultimate fiduciary responsibility for all areas of CWEA, including the local sections. Because the CWEA Board has ultimate fiduciary responsibility and all CWEA local sections and committees operate under the same federal tax ID, we, meaning the board, depend on local section treasurers to provide CWEA staff with the information and documentation they need in order to complete monthly reconciliations and the year-end audit and file tax returns. Providing monthly documentation of your local section revenue and expense in a concise and timely way is critical, so we can consolidate that information from all 17 local sections. Our reporting has improved significantly over the last several years, so thank you very much for that. But there are still improvements that can be made in submitting all the documents we need.
So the local section treasurer reporting responsibilities are going to be detailed in the CWEA's fiscal financial policy. It's FP 104, and we're going to be sending that out to you when we send you the new fiscal year reporting budget template. But before Renu gets to the heart of some of what we're looking for in documentation, I wanted to just mention that that policy, for various priority reasons, has not been updated in quite some time, and yet it still is the guiding policy of CWEA. So wherever you have questions about that, let us know. And these components listed here are going to be the main components, and a few others we'll go over. Also, I'll mention that during this orientation you'll see a brief overview of parts of the standard monthly reporting Excel template, but you will have to contact Renu if you want a very detailed one-to-one demonstration of mechanically how it works. So this is going to be just a brief orientation to it, and then if you find that this was not enough for your needs, you can let us know, let Renu know, and she'll schedule something with you.
Thank you, Kevin. The CWEA financial reporting template for fiscal year 15-16 will be emailed to the local section treasurer within the next couple of weeks. Use the main Budget tab to complete the budget. The budget is due by April 30th. Once finalized and approved by your local section, it can be emailed directly to me. Monthly financial reports are due by the last day of the following month and must include the financial reporting template in Excel format, which I'll come back to in a moment. Clear, detailed copies of invoices and receipts to substantiate all disbursements. It is very important that the copies are clear and detailed. As a non-profit organization, we have to be able to show to the IRS that our expenses are in accordance with our mission. The receipt should clearly tie to the payments made. If a check was used to pay the sum of several receipts, write the check number next to the copy of those receipts. It is best to always use checks to pay for expenses. Using cash received from an event will not only inaccurately decrease the revenue recorded for the event, but may result in not recording the expense. For food and entertainment expenses, a list of attendee names is required along with the date of the event or meeting purpose. For prizes, any prizes given, a list of prize recipients, the prize they received is required, again along with the date of the event or the meeting purpose. Submit clear copies of bank deposit receipts that tie directly to the bank statement, and note where applicable the event or purpose for which the funds for the deposit were received. All cash received should be deposited to accurately record revenue. In addition to being required by policy, completed check request forms accompanying all disbursements are very valuable when trying to remember the reasoning of the expense. Treasurers change hands, people move on, and it's easy to forget. Check images should be set up through your bank to be sent along with the bank statement. And finally, the check register. It should list check numbers in numeric order, including any voided, lost, or canceled checks. It should also include all deposits. It is the local section treasurer who reconciles the monthly bank statement. Make sure the beginning and ending balances on your Excel reporting template match that of the bank statement. Local section bank statements are required to come directly from the bank to our Oakland office. They are then scanned and an email copy is sent to the local section treasurer. Now I'll briefly go over parts of the CWEA financial reporting template. The template is set up as an Excel pivot table with multiple tabs. Some cells and tabs are protected in order to prevent possible formula errors. The main budget document tab is where you will enter your local section's budget amounts and submit to me by April 30th. You will notice on the budget tab, as well as the monthly reporting tabs, the program areas are listed across the top and the detailed revenue and expense categories go down the left side. Once you have entered your annual budget in the Budget tab and are ready to begin recording financial activity for the first month of the fiscal year, July 2015, start with entering the checking account beginning balance per your bank statement where indicated in the upper left corner. Then, using your bank statement, enter all clear transactions in the revenue and expense categories under the appropriate program where possible. You can add comments to cells for clarification. When reconciled, your ending bank statement balance will be the same as the ending balance on your reporting template. Again, if you would like to have a one-on-one demonstration of how to use the template or have questions on any of the other tabs, please don't hesitate to ask me, and we can certainly schedule some time to explain the template in more detail. Thank you.
Very good, Renu. And I just want to mention a couple of other things in the policy, as I mentioned, FP 104, Financial Policy 104, that are pretty critical to remember. One is double signatures on checks. We've heard in the past that it is a little bit of a hassle to accomplish, but it is policy, and it is the intent of it is to absolutely protect the volunteer who has charge of the checkbook, and also to protect the fiduciary responsibility of the CWA State Board. The other part of the policy that I would remind you of is that each section can only have a maximum of 3 bank accounts. And specifically, each section can have a checking account, a savings account, and a liquid 12-month CD account. All accounts must have the CWEA Executive Director, Elizabeth Allen, as an authorized signer on the account. Especially keep this in mind when your board turns over and the signature cards are updated. The last thing is part of the policy is dinner, meeting, roster, and meeting minutes. And where applicable, send copies of the dinner, meeting, roster, and meeting minutes with your financial package. But in some cases, we've been telling folks it's okay to delegate this part of the task. It's part of our financial policy that we're going to revisit, but right now it's part of the policy that it comes with a financial package. But we are telling folks that they can designate another board, one of your colleagues, one of your other board members, potentially the secretary, if that's a separate role, to collect this information and deliver that to CWA through Victoria Rawson, who is our administrative assistant.
Kevin mentioned Financial Policy 104, and I want to remind you it is the volunteer board, not staff, who set all CWEA policies. So it's the board's responsibility, and the board sets policies. When the section financial reports and documentation are late, more volunteer and staff resources are required by policy to follow up, and therefore increases costs to our members. Multiple staff members must be notified and get involved when a section is late. Depending on how late, a compliance alert goes out to the section treasurer, the section president and vice president, their CWEA board liaison, our CWEA treasurer, the CWEA executive director, and CWEA chief financial officer. So there's a lot of other reporting involved when the reports are late. It's definitely easier to produce a report of a single month of activity versus multiple months at one time, and you also decrease the likelihood of losing some of your important documentation like the receipts when you're on time. Given that we are volunteers, it's just a professional courtesy to fulfill your obligations so that other volunteers are not drawn into this. Remember, you're representing one section, but we must handle all 17 local sections of CWEA. So why do we do all of this? All local sections and committees are under one tax ID number, and IRS guidelines require us to report annually for all of our local sections on income and where it comes from memberships or conferences or your sponsors, and on where the funds received by the section were spent on supplies, speakers, food, whatever, to ensure that what we are doing is consistent with our mission. And this is essential for retaining our 501c3 nonprofit tax-exempt status. And I'll also note that we are audited every single year by independent auditors who look at these documents and confirm that we are on track with all of our reporting. Also, it is just good business. Information your local section board and our CWEA state board needs to make good decisions. The more transparent we can be with our income and expenses as a nonprofit, the higher the degree of protection afforded to all volunteers. And finally, they're looking at the big picture of Water's Worth It, the WEF logo, These efficiencies better enable us to achieve our CWEA mission, where we don't have to take additional staff and resource times to track down all of our documentation. Okay, folks, I have another question for you. Who can tell me what historical figure is quoted as saying, wait for this, "I fear explanations explanatory of things explained"? Does anyone have a guess? Well, hopefully we haven't yet given those explanations explanatory of things already explained, but please do raise your hand on the control panel if you have any questions. As I go through the last few slides, Chris will organize these questions and hopefully we'll have time to answer them all. Remember, raise your hand via the signal as we go through the review, and then we'll compile all those questions. And in case any of you couldn't see it, it was Abraham Lincoln who made that impossible statement. Okay, let's review. Send your budget annually by April 30th and your financial reports monthly. And just a note on why it's April 30th, it's because staff has to then compile all of that information and put it together for our state board to prepare the budget for the following year. So at our June board meeting, we have to approve all of those budgets, and it takes a lot of staff and board time to review all of those budgets and compile it into our larger overall CWEA budget. Send your backup documentation with your financial reports every month for your deposits and for your expenses, just like an expense report you do for your employer. Send in your budget and financial reports on time. The annual budget by April 30th and the monthly financial reports by the end of the following month. And be sure to include the check images. They don't always come with the bank statement. The board's operation committee reviews the status of the local section reporting every month. What happens when you don't send them in on time? Staff and board members have to follow up with you. You'll receive a standard compliance alert that also notifies your local section, board liaison, the CWEA treasurer, the CWEA executive director, and chief financial officer. This all costs time and money. Help keep organizational costs down for our nonprofit. Our management overhead at CWEA is at 12%, well below the average, which is between 15 and 25%. Also, when you are late submitting your reports, it takes you more time to catch up on, and more time on the part of staff than if you keep up in a timely way. So do we have any questions, Chris?
No, I think you guys did such a great job. There's no questions at all.
Oh, come on. There's got to be one question out there.
Somebody must have a question. Nobody's upside down like a turtle and stuck?
Oh, here we go. We got somebody raising a hand. Barbara Smith. Okay, Barbara, you're on the air.
Barbara, did you unmute your own microphone? Perhaps you can type in your question because we're not hearing you. And while she's doing that, or if anyone else has any questions, I will remind you of some of your resources for help. Of course, your own CWEA board liaison. You can contact Berlinda Blackburn, the CWEA State Board Treasurer. You can contact me, your State Board Incoming Treasurer. Renu Paul, our CWEA Financial Manager, and Renu knows this stuff cold, so I doubt you can come up with any questions she hasn't already seen. You could try it, but she's got this stuff and can really just help you work it out if you do have any problems. Or you can contact Kevin Rogers, who's our Chief Financial Officer and has just a ton of background and experience with all of all of this reporting and the details of it also.
Looks
so,
like
Chris?
Oh, yeah, it looks like we do have another question from Nick Steffen. Nick, go ahead. We're not hearing you, Nick. Do you have your phone on mute?
Since we're not hearing questions, if any of you have questions and want to type them in, you can also do that. And while we're waiting for it, I will remind you that this presentation is being recorded, so if there's anything you missed or want to go back and check on, you will be able to get it at the CWEA website. Or if you have coworkers or others on your local section board who want to pick up on this information, they can do it also by going to the CWEA website and getting this. Chris, do you have more information on how they can access this presentation?
Yeah, we'll be sending an email to all the attendees, and it'll be available on our YouTube channel, and we'll probably put something on our e-bulletin, but you'll get a direct link just emailed to you. And it looks like we do have another question, so maybe third time's a charm, Gail. We'll give it a try. It's from William Cassidy. Okay, William, are you there? It looks like he's having troubles with the audio. And
This might be a problem on our side, Chris, so I apologize to anyone who's...
Everybody hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Is this Nick?
Hi, this is Nick, yeah.
Go ahead.
I used the phone to dial in. I think my computer microphone was having some issues. So anyways, I'm the incoming treasurer for the Tri-Counties local session, and we've had some issues in the past, I think, with vendors submitting some late payments for workshops and events and whatnot. So how do we deal that? Say we have a workshop on the 14th of the month and we need the monthly report by the end of the following month. What if we get a check, a week after that? How do we address those sort of late payments? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. The way I would say it is you should go ahead and submit what you have, and then the next month you would submit that transaction and report on the template again for that particular month. Remember, these months are, you have a tab in the Excel file for every month distinct, and so I would just say add that to your next month reporting.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then another question, we saw the door prize entry winner list and the dinner meetings. I know that sort of came up in our local section that hasn't been done in the past, and just kind of curious of the history and background of that.
Yeah, we're getting the word out more and more. I am aware that a lot of folks don't know about that component of the policy. Specifically, the door prize, the history of that is really to protect that we can prove, if audited to that degree, that the prizes that were purchased by a local section reaches individual recipients. As you can imagine, the abuse that can happen where you don't want to believe that abuse will happen, but it does, and when it does, it's going to be in this area where of food and entertainment and gifts. That's why the IRS is so strict on it. And so we want to be able to prove for the protection of the person who purchased it, first and foremost, that these reached individual members or recipients. And then, of course, that then bubbles up to us where we can prove that the section is spending the money in accordance with the mission of CWEA. The dinner meeting roster component of that it potentially is still a holdback from of terminology, but it still exists, where a lot of the technical and content information of training is going on at a dinner meeting, so to speak, in some sections, if not all. And so what we're requiring there, what the board has asked for by directing this policy, is being able to show who attended that, especially where expenses are covered. So an example would be if you have a $5,000 catered dinner meeting or something like that where food is brought in, we want to be able to show that that wasn't you and your best friend having a $2,500 meal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just substantiating the content of that, and it's very much in line with if you've heard your employer require you to write the names down on a lunch receipt of who you had lunch with and what the purpose of your lunch was, so that when they submit it to the IRS, it's documented. Does that help you with that context?
Yeah, and I think there was some concern where we were thinking of maybe the IRS was trying to look at, if we spend whatever that dollar amount is to claim income, extra income of a gift or something like that. But it sounds like that's not the case. It's just
not at all. Very far from that. So I'm really pleased with that question, to be able to clear that up. That really is nowhere near what what this requirement is about. So I'm glad to have that. Yeah, thank you for that.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to add a little bit to Nick's first part of the question was when you're entering in revenue for the same event that's received in different months, the last page of the template does summarize. It pulls from all the months and gives you a summary, a running total of how much you have received or paid for any event. So you would not have to total each month separately. You would just go on the last tab, the summary tab, and that will give you the total.
Okay.
See, I told you Renu knows.
Once I get it, yeah.
Great.
I'm sorry, I was just saying, Ray, this shows you that Renu just really knows this template. So when you do run into problems or glitches, she can help you work your way through them. I wouldn't want to do it without her.
Sounds great.
Any other questions, Chris?
I don't see any other questions. Sorry about that if everybody's having some audio or microphone trouble. But Nick,
so yeah, and whoever had the other questions, feel free to email either me or Renu, who's on the screen right now. These are our email addresses, so you can lob us your questions and we'll get right back to you for sure, or even give you a call if it's a more lengthy question. So just let us know how we can help.
Okay, if that's it, and if no one else has any other questions at this time, thank you all for participating. I realize it's probably lunch hour for many of you, and we appreciate you taking the time for participating in this training and for all the work you do as CWEA volunteers to bring our mission to life. Thank you.